Hey guys, it's Denise again, and I'm going to explain each of my books from my K to 2 that I chose. The first one is When We Were Alone by David A. Robertson. My APA reference is right there. I could not find the volume, but I filled in the rest of the information. The summary of elements. The characters were grandmother, so they had a name like Nokum for grandmother, and granddaughter was Noseum. The setting took place in Canada boarding school. The theme I chose for it was individual development and identity. The plot is a granddaughter asks her grandmother a bunch of questions on the grandmother's appearance. Her response always goes back to the school she went to that prohibited her from wearing many colors, keeping her hair long, speaking another language, and so much more. She explains that the culture she was uh, the she explains that the culture she was in influenced her to be the person she is now. So in the book, the grandmother goes to talk about how they could not wear their hair long, how they had uniforms so they could not use colors, how they were only allowed to speak one language, and if they were to do any of those things, there would be consequences. And that's why the grandmother now, wears bright colors. That's why her hair is longer than her hips, and that's why she speaks a certain language or more than one language, and that's what she was trying to get across to her granddaughter. The connection with the theme is about a person's identity being shaped by an individual's culture, by groups, by institutional influences, which is what the grandmother's explaining throughout the story, just like I said. Because of how she was supposed to be in that boarding school, it influenced her to be somewhat different when she got out of it, to be her own person. And the lesson I would have students do a reading response unit that includes 3 worksheets. The first worksheet has 2 charts, and the chart says the chart says how I feel at school and how Nocum felt at school. So you have two boxes, and the first one was just how you feel when you're going through school, and then how she felt. So just fact from the story. And then the second worksheet had 2 charts as well. And then in the story, so you had to write a fact about the story, and then say what it reminded you of. So that was the second worksheet. And the third worksheet was ask what the big idea is in the story. Why do you think the author wrote this story, and how has your thinking changed since reading this story? So that's the worksheet I would have the kids do for When We Were Alone. The second book was Mama Do You Love Me by Barbara M. Josie. So that's my APA citation. And then for summary of elements, the characters, they did not have names. They were Dear One or Mama. The setting took place in the Arctic. The theme was people, places, and environments. Plot, a child tries to see how strong her bond is with her mother. She asks many questions like how much does she love her? Or what if I threw water at our lamp? Every question gets a positive and honest response. While asking these questions, we are also learning about the lifestyle of the Anu. In the end, we see the rich culture through the illustrations and words, while see the unbreakable connection between Mama and Dear One. So even in that question that I wrote in the plot, what if I threw water at our lamp? They need the lamp as light. That's their source of light. So the Dear One, she wanted to see if her mom would be upset, if that would make her not love her. And in the end, the mom says, like, I would be upset, but I would still love you. Or, then we'll have to make a new lamp. She just tried to be positive, still reassuring her daughter that she was always going to love her the same. And so, connection to the theme relates to the book, because in the book we get to understand the relationship not only between the new culture and their environment, but more personal relationships like Mama and Dear One. So in each question, we got to see why or how the environment influenced the newt. So again, the lamp something they needed in their everyday life, was showed the importance of what the mom said or how she answered it. And then also seeing the relationship, like the mom, and how she, even though maybe she have gotten upset or would have gotten upset, she still loved her child. And the lesson I have for this is have students identify several items that represent the culture in the book. Then have students identify items in the same category from their own culture. Explain how they are similar and how they are different. This allows them to see how similar and different their culture is to someone else. Oh, and I put the websites where I got kind of these ideas for the lesson. And the first activity that I mentioned in the other book was from Teachers Pay Teachers. So my third book is Powwows Coming by Linda Boyden. And that is my APA citation. My summary of elements was characters were American Indians. Again, it was not names. It was just a vague description of just the people that they were talking about, the group of people. So the setting was America. The theme was culture. The plot was this book shows us more than the usual lifestyle of Native Indians. Here we read how children celebrate and embrace the enduring culture and heritage of the American Indians. While they are getting used to the social norms of this culture, they are also providing a look into their powwows and meanings. So here you're able to see how the Indians, the Native Indians, like integrated the American culture, because usually when we hear about Indians, we think about them riding horses, we think about them hunting, we think about just the old history and what they used to do. And some may do it now, but this book just pertained to the people that were actually trying to be involved in the American culture. So the connection with the theme was, this theme connects with the book because it shows the culture's dynamic and change over time when Native Indians rode horses, hunted, and kept to themselves, to now where they integrate somewhat the American culture and lifestyle. So the lesson I would do, students will listen to the book, and then in their journals, they will try to list the instruments they hear from the powwow, if it is fast or slow, and how powwows play a part in Native American culture. So just like powwow being like just a musical story time that the Indians do, and just like seeing why it was important to them, and like how we compare it to what we listen to in our music. And then that was the where I got the lesson from. And then my fourth book was The Very First Americans by Kara Ashros. And my APA citation is right there. Summary of literal elements, characters, which were more groups, but Hopi, Seminole, Secoy, Makah, and Comanche. The setting was America because they were the first Americans. The theme was time, continuity, and change. The plot was before there was any knowledge of Columbus in America, there were many groups of people that already discovered the land and made it their home. Groups like the Makah, Seminole, Hopi, Secoy, and Commande, and more show us how they live, eat, and have fun. Have fun and where they are at today. Connection with theme. The theme is connected to the book because the theme is studying the past. That the past makes it possible for us to understand the human story across time, which is what is being explained in the book. It tells us how the many tribes' lifestyle and where they are at now. So just the difference between before and now. And the lesson I would have for students will be to give them a detailed recording sheet about Native Americans. The columns from left to right were plains, northwest coast, southwest, and woodland. And then the rows from top to bottom were housing, food, and other. Students would write where each group lived, and then fill out the rows below it. So if they put Hopi and plains, they would write the food and housing and other stuff in the details below. And like that's how it was for every other group mentioned in the book. And then I got that from Teachers Pay Teachers. And then my last book was Navajo, the First Peoples by Valerie Bowden. And that is my APA citation. And the characters were Navajo and Cherokee tribe. The setting was also in America since they were the first peoples. Theme was individuals, groups, and institutions. And the plot was before the Europeans, native people were thriving across North America. The story explains the first six peoples and their lifestyle. We get to see the community structure, traditions, and any relocation or more history. Connection with the theme relates to the book by explaining that institutions, schools, religious institutions, families, government, courts, and agencies are the formal and informal political, economic, and social organizations that help us carry out, organize, and manage our daily affairs. In the book, it shows us how the natives carry out their laws, form, and control their community, and also how family power are organized. For the lesson, students get a worksheet named Native Americans. On this worksheet, students will write 2 facts on how the Navajo tribe lived in the past, 2 facts on Cherokee tribe, and they can research and find 1 tribe that lived in the state that they live in now and 2 facts about it. And that's my source. And those are my K2 books.